If you could watch someone else's story and see that they experienced what you experienced, and instead of thinking that your world is just a black orb, but now understanding that you are walking through a tunnel and you're moving forward, you'll start to develop night vision in the darkness. That's why this is so important to me, to share my story, because I feel like it's not for everyone. Everybody doesn't relate to suicide. And that was something that was mind-blowing to me too, because of my experience, I just thought everybody understands what it's like to want to end your life. Everybody doesn't. So if you don't relate to that, I'm happy for you. I'm so happy, because I wouldn't want to wish that type of emptiness on anybody. Hello and welcome to Go the Distance. Go the Distance is a series that features people who have discovered how to turn their pain into power and are now impacting our world in very positive ways. I'm your host, Cherrie Garden, and today we're going to do this show a little differently. Today you're going to hear my story, my breakthrough, how I overcame. Sit tight. I was born in Livingston, New Jersey, to two Jamaican parents. My mom speaks the Queen's English, so you almost would never know that she is Jamaican. You'd more so think she's British. And the way she speaks, she's very regal. She speaks like this. Mother grew up in Spanish Town in Jamaica, Spanish Town, St. Catherine. And my father is a Kingstonian. He went to KC Old Boys, so shout out to the purple and whites. And my mother hails from St. Jago High School. So in Jamaica, we're very traditional with our high schools. We rep that as much as Americans rep colleges. You know, you rep your high school all the way. Alumni associations, everything. My dad used to work with Price Waterhouse Coopers. So he was basically like on Wall Street. I know that if my mom is watching this, she probably would not want to hear this, but I think I always had a bit of a stronger relationship with my father than with my mom. I think it's mostly because my mother was the disciplinarian. So all of the spanking them, all of the beatings came from my mom. My dad, by principle, did not want to lay a hand on me because he partially did not want me to get used to the concept of a man beating me. I'm an only child. My mom waited till she was about 38 to have me. Don't think being an only child is easy. You get blamed for everything that goes wrong in the house because there's no other kid to split it with. My parents, I wouldn't say that they ever really spoiled me, but I was definitely given everything that I needed. So I can't say that I necessarily wanted for anything. So it was, from the outside, a pretty good childhood. I didn't move to Jamaica till I was 6 years old. So that's when I got immersed in the culture. All of it was new. It was like a whole big culture clash. Going to Jamaica was freeing for me on so many levels. Best decision my parents ever made. Yay. Went from being the only black kid, that basically damn near the only black kid in a grade, to you can't even necessarily find a white person. It's like the proportions were completely flipped. So it was interesting because I saw a whole lot more people that looked like me, like exactly my complexion. But the funny thing is that I didn't grow up the way that they grew up, so there was still a level of disconnect. Because in essence I was a Yankee, as they call it. A Yankee is just basically somebody from the US. They're really strict in school in Jamaica, so it's under the British system of education, so you have to catch up quickly. And the type of stuff you can get away with in school in America, I mean, whispering in class, disrespecting the teacher, anything like that, oh man, it was very old school, classic British. I mean, as soon as a teacher walks into the classroom, you stand and you greet the teacher, "Good afternoon, Miss Hay." You know, it's just very, very classic. Our foods, our nature, our flowers, everything was just, it was just so breathtaking in the islands, in Jamaica, and our music. Everybody loves Bob Marley. Who doesn't love Bob Marley? So getting to see where he grew up and learning about Rastafarianism. Not every Jamaican is a Rastafarian, okay? Let's kill that stereotype as well. Not every Jamaican has locks either. Just because you see me have some on right now, don't mean. I always say, if I was going to be homeless anywhere, I would prefer to be homeless in Jamaica, because you can just walk down the street and there's a mango hanging over somebody's fence, or an orange, or anything. It's just, we have city and we have country. City is probably a little more grimy. That's Kingston is a little, like Shutters and Belly, those movies that you see. But, there's always just the country area that's just pristine. One thing I loved about moving to Jamaica was that I feel like racism, the concept of racism, completely melted away. You just don't feel racism in Jamaica, because Jamaica is all about one love. It's all about, our motto is out of many, one people. What there is discrimination against is classism. There's an aspect of classism in Jamaica, which basically means that, if you're of a lower class, there's obviously less opportunities, but it's not about the opportunities, it's also about the way you're treated a lot of the time. There's a stark distinction between Cherrie Gardens, where I grew up, and Tivoli Gardens. So when people think about the streets of Kingston, like the movies, Belly and Shutters sometimes depict, that's showing Tivoli Gardens a lot of the time, in Waterhouse and that side of downtown, where it's run by Dons, gangs. It's a whole Don culture, which is very vastly different from places like Norbrook, Jacks Hill, Uptown, Halfway Tree, Manor Park, all of that area, Cherrie Garden. Even when I was in high school, I wanted to hang out with the bad girls in school, right? Because, even though it's a hoity-toity, prestigious school, Immaculate Conception High School, we still had government grants for some kids from lower income neighborhoods. But I was like, I want to hang out with them, I want to hang out with the bad girls. And these girls would see me coming and they'd be like, "I miss Cherrie Garden, that. Cherrie Garden. What? You want to come hang out with us? Well, you don't know nothing about taking bus. Alright? You don't know nothing about going hungry. At Cherrie Gardens you live, man. You don't know nothing about this kind of life, man. Go on about your business." And I would feel so sad because, yes, I had a chauffeur that picked me up from school and dropped me home, and yes, there was always dinner on the table when I got home, but I didn't think that was a reason why I couldn't hang out with you guys. So, that used to be my heartbreak, is that they would tease me, call me the name of my neighborhood, Cherrie Gardens, and I would hate that. I wish they would stop. you know? But when I came to the US later on, and when I started working in the entertainment industry, I wanted a brand that would identify who I am and hail Jamaica at the same time. And that is definitely the reason that that name came back to mind.
What's up, everybody? This is your girl, Cherrie Garden, and we are here in Las Vegas. I'm so excited. Red carpet, standard. Mwah.
The things that started happening to me, I did not understand that they were bad per se. I just kind of accepted that they were, I don't know, a part of life, I guess. I wouldn't say that I ever allowed negative things that happened to me to overtake my overall happiness, my overall glee and joy when I interacted with people. I guess I was really good at compartmentalizing from a very young age. My parents needed somewhere for me to stay between the time that school ended and the time that they got off of work. And so they would drop me at this old lady's house. Her name was Grandma Blissett. She wasn't my mom or my dad's mother. Apparently, she was called Grandma because she was elderly. Grandma Blissett rented out the top floor of her house to, I think it was a young lady who had a son. And the son had a little sister. We would all play together because we're all in the same house. The son, let's say the young man, I think his name was Adrian, I'll just put it that way. And his little sister, which I don't remember her name, let's say her name's Angelica. But sometimes there would be these days where we would play house. Adrian, of course, would be the dad, and I would be the mom, and his little sister, who is smaller than both of us, would be the daughter. The times that I really, really remember, I guess, are the times that were the scariest for me, which was, there was a period of time where Adrian had broken his arm, and his arm was in a cast. And we would play house, and then he would tell me to go into the bedroom. He would tell me to take off my clothes. Anytime that I said that I didn't want to do something while he had this cast on his arm, he would say, do it or else I'm going to beat you up with my cast. And of course that was a cast that was hard. It wasn't, one of those soft, gauzy kind of casts. That was the molded knock, knock, knock type of cast. So that usually ended a lot of my rebuttals. I would just comply and go ahead and do it. I'd take off my clothes. He'd tell me to get in the bed, and I'd do so. And it wasn't necessarily like full penetration type of thing, but it would be like, I guess, what I know now as oral sex, and like fingering and like tell me to do things to him. So like the same, like a hand job and to go down on him. Of course, these are terms I can use now, but at 4 years old, I didn't know what any of this was called. I know it didn't feel right, it didn't feel good. It didn't feel like something, it just didn't, it had this guilty, like stomach wrenching kind of feeling to the activities I was being told to do, but I was so, I guess, innocent and naive at the same time that I just didn't really know that. Plus I was scared. This went on for a long time. It didn't happen every day. It probably only happened once a week. I would really not look forward to the days that he would say, today we're gonna play house. But I think that even after he had the cast removed, it's like Pavlov's dog, I guess. Like once you train the person that you know, with the reactions like, don't think that because I have this cast off don't mean I can't beat you up. Don't you see these fists? And I never told my parents. Because he told me, if I tell anybody anything that happened, I'm gonna beat you up. That was basically the method to everything. So couldn't tell Grandma Blissett, couldn't tell his mom, couldn't tell my parents. Just couldn't tell anybody. So, as he said, it was just our little thing. My mom and my pediatrician used to have a really, really great relationship. She was an African lady. I think she was from Nigeria. She had 2 children that were around my age. And of course, I won't be saying her name because she has no idea that this happened. So if I was 6 or 5, I guess he was about like 10-ish. So this is a scenario that happened after the Adrian scenario. But there would be times that my mom would take me over to the pediatrician's house. I think my mom just wanted to have some girl time with the pediatrician because they were friends. I remember this happened particularly one time, but I think it started happening repeatedly. The son would tell me to come upstairs. And we're in his room, we're playing with toys, and then he just gets up and he closes the door and he locks the door. And I'm like, why are you locking the door? He pulls down his pants and shows me his penis. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I want you to kiss it. At that moment, I think is when I realized that it wasn't necessarily an isolated thing. It wasn't just Adrian. I think at that point, I just kind of felt that this is a guy thing. This is what guys do. They want you to do things like that to them. So I was already kind of trained by that point. And I was just like, okay, well, I guess this is what I'm supposed to do. And so I complied. And I think that happened a couple different times. And once again, I was like 5 years old. It just became, to me, I became kind of numb to this situation. I was shocked. I felt this fire. This first time that the pediatrician's son had asked me to do this, I felt this fire, this anger inside of me for a quick moment. Like, why? Why is he asking me to do this? But instead of getting up, screaming, being like, no, I was already like in the mindset, and I just compartmentalized the emotion, put it away, and was just like, okay, fine. Being comfortable with sex at such a innocent, small, young age, I'm sure it does have its effects. And I think that I'm more so dealing a lot with how it manifests later on in life. When I went to Jamaica at 6 years old, in that department of my life, I felt so happy because Immaculate Conception Prep School, preparatory, which is elementary school in Jamaica, was an all-girls school. The whole prep school and high school was an all-girls Catholic school. So I didn't have to worry about boys. And I lived 5 minutes drive away from the school, but now we had a housekeeper in Jamaica, so I could just be dropped right at home. So I did feel a level of freedom to not have to deal with somebody demanding sexual favors. Once again, I didn't necessarily know this was called sexual favors. I just demanding those activities that didn't feel good being done. I can just be happy-go-lucky and be free now and just live my life. 12 is when I started to develop my interest in boys now, right? So I would say between 6 and 12 was just a wonderful, glorious, innocent acclimation to a brand new culture, and it was not tumultuous. I really don't remember anything tumultuous happening during that time. It was just a great time of life. There was this one guy in particular. His name was Sheldon. He was kind of Indian looking, kind of coolie, as we call it in Jamaica, really dreamy eyes. And he would always be staring at me every time that we'd come through the cashier lane. And of course, I'm 12, I'm like, oh my God, why is he staring at me? So, you know, puppy love, the regular butterflies in the stomach, you know, we've all been through it. It was a really slow process, of course, because my dad would come pick us up would come and pick the housekeeper and I up from the supermarket, and so of course Sheldon would help us bring the bags to the car because there was 2 weeks worth of groceries, so that's like 2 carts and stuff like that. And then in Jamaica it's custom for a bag boy to unload the groceries into the vehicle, and then they get a tip for unloading. So he would do that. So he'd meet my dad. He's like, hello, Mr. Jackson, how are you doing? You know, I hope you're having a good day. So he built a relationship with my dad and all of that. So it became a thing where anytime we go to the supermarket, I'd always try to check out in his lane as much as possible. And, you know, then at some point we exchanged numbers as the months or weeks went by. And so, yeah, we had a little budding puppy love relationship. I was 12. He was 17, and we were together for a while, talking, I should say, for a while, because the summer of me turning 13, he was 18, and that particular, when I say a while, I would say like probably 5 months or something like that, because that summer, there was a particular situation where we were in a little area of the school alone, and we were kissing and touching and stuff like that. And he had been super supportive the entire relationship about me maintaining my virginity. And so I never really expected what happened of him, because I thought we had an agreement. I mean, we've towed the line a couple times, and this particular time he said he wanted to just kind of put the head there. And I was like, I just don't put it in. And he was like, I know, baby, I know. I won't put it in. I'm like, okay, I mean, I trust you. I'm really gonna trust you. And he was like, yeah, I won't put it in. And at one point, I feel like he's pressing, and I'm like, no, I don't want you to press. And he was like, okay, I'm sorry, I won't press. I'm like, okay. So we kissing and touching, and I feel him pressing again. I'm like, no, I don't want you to press. And he was like, I won't press. Okay. So we continue one more time, and then I feel him pressing again, and I'm like, look, I don't think this is a good idea. Like, we should just stop. And he was like, no, you're fine. I'm like, no, I want you to get off of me. And he's like, no, you're fine. I'm not gonna be pressing. And I'm like, no, come on. I'm starting to like push him off of me, and he starts to like hold my hands down, and is like, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine. I'm like, no, get off of me. Like, I don't want you to do this. And he's just proceeds to go ahead and push all of the way, and holding me down. And I was really, that moment, I really felt like my world had been like ripped apart at that time, because I really, really, really trusted him, and I really at that time had a goal to maintain my virginity. I mean, it's funny because I tell people, oh, I lost my virginity at 12, and they're like, 12? Like, that's early, but it wasn't necessarily like I just went into it wanting to lose it. I mean, arguably, we were towing the line, but at the time that I said, no, get off of me, no, I don't want to do this, he did use like a level of force to hold me there, and I was trying to get away, and he was like, you know, was so angry, was so horrible really about it afterwards, is that he said he was sorry. What? Like, after you stick your inside of me when I didn't want you to do that, and now that you are satisfied, you're gonna tell me you're sorry? What? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. You're sorry. He starts crying. All of this melodrama. Of course, you know, my dad is coming to pick me up from tennis camp in a few minutes. Looking at the time, he's probably there out front now, so we gotta go. I gotta go out front. And like that moment of walking up to my dad's car and knowing that I was bleeding. I didn't really know like how much I was bleeding. I didn't know how much blood there was gonna be, you know, and to be able to walk up to my dad's car and be like, "Hey, Daddy, how was your day?" "Oh, I had a good day." And that drive home, it was really, really difficult. I think that's really where my acting skills got pushed to the test. My best friend, the same best friend from before, her name is Shani. And she has a big brother named Marcus. Marcus has a best friend named Kwame. So I'm over Shani's house one day, and her big brother is there, and his best friend Kwame comes over. Kwame happens to live next door, and Kwame sees me for the first time. He taught me so much, and he loves to dance. Oh my gosh, somebody that loves to dance. He taught salsa, Latin dancing lessons. He was a kickboxer, teacher, bodybuilder. This dude was hot. He was 6'4", rip hold, OMG. So that my dad would always ask me, why do I like these little ragamuffins, these little regmatigs, all right? Because I don't know if I ever mentioned that Sheldon was not from the best side of town. That whole situation when I was 13. He was from the ghetto. He was just the perfect guy in my estimation, and he loved me so passionately, so quickly, and I was like, why is he so in love? His German exchange student girlfriend had returned to Germany and decided that she didn't want to continue a long-distance international relationship, and he loved her so much. He just couldn't bear to live without her. But then he saw me sitting on the couch and felt like his world had life again all of a sudden. That's so sweet, right? Even though he was so fine, he had really low self-esteem. And I was like, why don't you feel like you look as good as you look? But yet he was such an overachiever. So from the outside, he was the life of the party. Everyone thought that, and he was smart. He was intelligent. Everybody thought that this guy is like the dude. If we had arguments that went a little too far south, he very infrequently, but it did happen, there would be times that he would threaten to end his life. And it used to scare me, but then he did it once or twice or 3 times or 4 times or 5 times to the point where I was just like, okay, I feel like he's just doing this for attention. He is telling me he's about to jump off of this building, or that he's about to shoot himself or whatever, just because he wants me to start crying and bawling and hollering and saying, no, don't, baby, please, no, baby, please, I'm sorry, no. March 2005, I came back to Jamaica for spring break, and this is such an in-depth story, but to tell it as expeditiously as possible, I had 2 girlfriends with me that I brought from boarding school. One was a New Yorker, she was a basketballer, and another young lady, her name was Yuri, and she was from Japan. So we had Yuri and Janae. It was her first time in Jamaica ever coming with me. I asked Kwame to take us out somewhere that first night that we got there. We went out, we played pool, and then we went to a KFC to grab some food. And a guy that was behind the counter at the KFC kept trying to flirt with me and kept trying to come out into the food area and started touching me while we were eating, and then went into the bathroom area. So after repeated situations like that, Kwame got up from the table, went around to the bathroom area, and there was like a physical altercation in the bathroom. Why are you touching my girl? Da, da, da. And given that Kwame's a bodybuilder, he could have really messed the guy up. But the guy was able to walk out. He didn't have any blood or anything. He just had some swollen cheeks and stuff. So the security guard coming and talking. I'm mad because I can't believe he just got in a fight. Yuri's like, hey, come outside because I can't believe you're mad at him right now. And while I'm outside, this KFC worker goes back into the kitchen, takes the oil that they use to fry the chicken, 350-degree Fahrenheit oil, bursts through the kitchen door into the dining area and douses Kwame with this oil all over him while he was talking to the security guard. All I know, I was outside, I hear this scream like, ah! I'm like, what? I turn around, this is a glass front, and I see Kwame on the ground in the store, and then I see the dude, the KFC worker, run into the door, but then he's slipping and sliding, and I'm like, what's going on in there? And then by the time the guy gets to the door, Kwame springs up from the ground and runs up to the guy, grabs the guy in a chokehold, smashes through the glass front window of the KFC, and has him do the chokehold on the ground. And the employees are running out, and I'm like, why is Kwame have this dude in a chokehold? Is he going crazy? So I'm like, Kwame, let him go, let him go. I take off my heels and I'm hitting him on the back, like, let him go, why are you? I'm hitting this man on the back with my stiletto heels and didn't know.
Finally, when the officers get close enough, he releases the guy from his grasp, and the dude starts running, and the officers start running after him. All of the employees and the people in the KFC are crowding around, and they're like, yo, you gotta take his shirt off, you gotta take his shirt off. It was like an Under Armour, like a muscle shirt. As they start peeling the shirt off of his back, all of his skin just comes off with the shirt. So you're just seeing like muscle and flesh. And that's when I realized what had happened. And I was hitting him with my stilettos, like while he was basically frying. Because the muscle shirt held the oil close to his skin, so it was like continuous cooking of his skin, basically.